cool thing about this game is that David has been studying the King's Indian, and so it's honestly even okay. First of all, let me clarify a couple things. So, dude came to the board late. He came 5 minutes late. David played knight f6 quickly, and now knight c3. David's thinking. A little weird for David to think here, just because, in my understanding of what he's been doing, he's been pumped on that Kostya's King's Indian course. So, Mike's message. I'm sorry, I deleted it. I don't know why I want that. I don't know why I deleted it. So, anyways, David, you got to play a move here, bud, for the fans. We definitely don't want you thinking right here. Now, okay, one thing actually is he could be debating playing e5 now. But especially if he was going to be such a King's Indian goon as he's been recently, you'd think he'd just play g6 and get the party started, right? There we go, g6. So a little longer than I'd like. Those 4 minutes might come back to haunt him. And let's say the brutality of the situation now for David. And maybe he maybe he didn't do it just because of the brutality. So this guy is going to know several approaches to the King's Indian way better than Pruess. Like way better. And one of the things about Pruess is he has been for a long time like a dilettante of openings, right? He likes it to go play a little of this, then play a little of that. He claims he's learning something. No. He's a master of nothing. So that's the drawback. And so if you were like a betting man, already the stakes are pretty looking bad for Fedoseev, for Pruess, just on the rating and the white. But now it's not like this choice of opening is bad for David, because this is what David knows. But like if you were just betting now, you'd be like, uh-oh. You'd be like, uh-oh. The odds, they were already bad and they got worse here. Now, it doesn't mean it's bad for David. David wants to do this opening, and he's been enjoying it. And what his ideal situation, I think, would be is if we just get a messy King's Indian position where, you know, calculation is key. If we get to a positional squeeze, that's obviously not what we want. We also don't want David to fall into time pressure, right? One of the things about King's Indian positions is often you will get both sides playing like 16 to 17 moves, and then and very quickly, and then people really are like, oh my God, I'm going to think for like a half an hour on a move, you know. So that's a very common thing that we should kind of expect to see here. Right, Jake, and I'm sure that's David's narrative. He's like, you know, I think he would play the King's Indian at this point against anyone anyway, but he enjoys this kind of challenge. We're anticipating knight f3 and then e5. And Kostya had some weirdnesses, let's put it that way, some weirdnesses in his variation. So at some point I might, if David does something weird, I'm going to go back and look. It's like, is that Kostya's weirdness? And a little weirdness, I don't know. You know, it'd be good to be the first one to know the position, but yeah. Kostya is a big fan of early h6s, for example. It's like, what? A little surprising that people are going so slow here. Good that David played castles in 22 seconds. I need him to play, you know, he will need the time later. So he needs to play these moves quickly. I am going to try to carry this game to its full completion or whatever. I'm not sure I'm going to be here for that entire time. But I will, if I leave, I'm just going to put it full screen, you know. Put it full screen. Now I should make a little jadoo over here too. So I didn't capture quite everybody's names. So let's make this a little smaller. Let's just move this over. It's still not showing the Vladimir. Okay. It takes much longer. I'm gonna play another blitz game, dude. Come on. What are you doing, Vlad? It's sometimes very incomprehensible when stronger players think forever. I guess he could be debating lines. So knight f3 would be the more traditional, but there's all kinds of lines with like bishop e3 and bishop g5 here. There we go, so bishop e3. Now, what I would like David to do is just to play e5 without thinking. But I'm really concerned he's going to tank here. Now, one thing about bishop e3 is that there's a line that goes e5, knight f3 that's very topical. Normally we'd have knight f3 played earlier. And that is a pretty hairy situation. And here's the funny thing, actually, about the computer. David hasn't looked at anything with the computer. And if you're going to play the King's Indian, it's best not to look with the computer, because the computer is going to always tell you you're worse. But what I will say about the computer is, back in the day, it was saying, like, the King's Indian is just toast. It has nudged that down a little bit. It still likes white more than other openings, but it's nudged it down. Okay, so knight a6. I'm going to go just research briefly what Kostya's thing says. So this is Kostya's course that David's been following. Material courses. Actually, I'll just bring it over here. We'll bring it over. So, King's Indian by Kostya. So, e4. Okay, so knight f3 leads. Okay, wait a second. So I need chapters here. Classical main lines. e5. And then somewhere in here we should have bishop e3. And so here he's talking about ed and this. And here's one of Kostya's weird h6 moves that I didn't approve of. Yeah. But okay. Now, let me just see if we're already, because David played it pretty quickly. So let's just see what this is going on. So d4 sidelines. I don't think this is a London system and stuff. No. This will all be the same. Okay, so that's not it. So I don't think, let's see. Let me just see. We got, one problem here is we need to have a thing where I hit next and it shows me all of the possible variations here. So 5h3, that's an evil variation. And then that's part of that h3 stuff. So let me just see if I understand this. I'm not sure that this move order is covered in David's course. And one thing for sure about a guy like Fedoseev is he is going to try to trick you in the opening. So, okay, let me just see if I understand this. In this position, Kostya, I think, is talking about ED4 here. Right? That's what Kostya is talking about there. So we have this position. Oh, no. Here we have it. Bishop e3 is a trendy line, though hardly popular at lower levels. The idea of delaying knight f3 is to keep the option of g2 and h4 alive. So an interesting approach is knight a6. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now, here's the funny thing. This is the so-called starter variation for 12 to 1800. And if I go back, does Kostya have? I should know this really. But let's actually stay here just a second. We'll go scoreboard. And we'll go material courses. Okay, so this is the expert level. Here's Kostya's King's India blueprint. He's got videos and stuff. We don't want the videos. Okay, next PGN. Classical mainline PGN. And so... So here we have this thing where it's not that this line isn't that different from the 1200 to 1800 thing that Kostya's got here. Master Toaster says he doesn't have it covered in 1800 plus. Okay. What is going on with my stream here, dude? What? Oh, I see. I gotta... there we go. Oh, and excuse me. Excuse me, Jesse. Your window's all messed up, dude. Sorry about that. So let's go back, and we're gonna go here. This is the move, and when I look then here, the theory here that Kostya's got isn't much different, and if I could just find it one more time. So, it's been a long day. Bishop e2, castles, bishop e3, knight a6. And now we have lines with g4 and h4. So, g4, c5, d5, knight c7, okay, and h4, h5. Knight f3 played. Okay, so this is an example of a little bit of trickery with the move order, okay? Because if I remember right now, if we go, now we're going back to the main knight f3, bishop e3 thing. But now, maybe, now knight a6 can't be a terrible move, but now we're in a situation where David might not really have a strong sense. And knight f3 was played with a big think. So you can tell this dude is like really thinking deeply about ways to mess with David's mind, right? So right, this was not in the course specifically. Now, let me just. It's a little bit. I'm sorry about this window here. Just. So classical main lines. E5 castles. Where's my bishop E3 at? Bishop E3. And so, right, in this position, Kostya wants ED, knight D4, rook E8. And we can still do ED now. But it's not clear if David's going to feel good about it. So I think... Oh, no, this is real interesting. This is real interesting. So... First, E5. First thing he needs to feel absolute comfort with is that DE is nothing for white. I can tell you that it's nothing. Okay. But then you need to feel good about D5. And you need to feel good about castles. Now, Master Fedoseev saying knight G4. Maybe, but I don't think that's what David wants. I think Fedoseev legit kind of tripped him up a little bit. And that is to say, like, switch the move orders around, and now David might not know exactly what to do here. Very clever. Let me turn the light on here. E5 played, good. 3 minutes is a little too long. Okay, but still, I'm happy that he did it. And here I feel is the big question about what white wants to do now. So if we imagine in this position, right, like it could have gone this way. I'm sure knight A6 is playable, right? It's just maybe not what David had in mind, right? Like that ED4 was the suggestion that Kostya had. So we transpose to that. I agree. If D5... By the way, here's one thing to really understand about the position. Is the idea of bishop E3 is to get the setup with knight D2, and I think Rengar's talking about that. That's the whole idea of bishop E3, and to wait on castling, so we'd rather not get mated. And so this is a very popular thing. I believe Gelfand's played it. I'm pretty sure Shanklin did a course on this bishop E3 stuff. So if D5 is played, we're going to suggest that knight G4 is probably forced. Okay, castles was done, and this gives David the option of playing ED4. I'm going to flip the board here. So in the other line that Kostya was talking about, he wanted to play ED4 and C6, and that at the very least would give us a position that we would feel, I think, maybe comfortable with. Right? So in this position, this is where Kostya wants ED and C6. I don't want to go back there. So, where is it? It's kind of hard for me a little bit hard for me to navigate here. So E5, bishop E3, ED, knight D4, rook E8, F3, C6. Now, here the rook is on E8. instead of, here, I'll put it up here, it makes more sense. So in this position, f3, c6, here we're threatening something like d5. So if David now plays ed4, it's not going to come with that instant threat. So for example, if ed4, knight d4, rook e8, f3, let's say c6 now, queen d2. Black isn't in time to do this d5 thing. This, however, to my noobish mind, is just slightly better for white. It's not winning or anything. Right. David could try to be fancy with the move c6 right now. And I'm certain that knight g4 has got to also be playable. But on knight g4, we need an answer to bishop g5. Abdul's saying white is much better. No. I don't know. White's definitely better. This kind of position, it's very hard to crack the d6 square. But let's just say the obvious. Fedoseev has put him in a little bit of a spot here where he's not going to know exactly what to do. Variety of ways to play it. Like you could play, you don't have to rush with c6. You could go here, 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 here. That's a thought. You could throw in your c6 even now if you want it, after f3. Yeah. The bummer though is that with this other thing that Kostya had going, so this was this without a6. Here with c6 we have a concrete threat. Kind of cool too that we're getting a test of Kostya's King's Indian course, and we're getting a 2700 messing with the lower rated move order, which I think is very instructive. Very instructive. Yeah. All right, so here we are right here. I think we could be here for a second. Hot in here all of a sudden. Humid all day. I think people are talking about knight g4, bishop g5, f6, and that's totally a thought. But then we're worse, you know. No doubt about it. This will be a little bit uncomfortable. A friend of the dojo, Eugene Perelstein, is a huge proponent of the knight a6 stuff. So he would always do this. And then white, of course, could transpose to the game with bishop e3. Yeah. So that's a thing for Eugene. If Eugene was here, he would have a lot to say about that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn on the chess base. I'm not going to turn on the computer, but I just want to look at what people have done here. Oh, God. Chess base is just increasingly annoying. God, you're so dumb. F off, chess space. Just, you're killing me, dude. Oh. Oh, you're killing me, dude. I can't even. It's a long day. It's becoming longer. Chess space. You're just slaying me, dude. What? I did the right password already. This is why we can't use ChessBase anymore, dude. We cannot use ChessBase anymore. We got to create, the dojo has to create their own thing, dude. You know? Because this ain't working. This is not working, man. Dude, I did the right password. I did the right password. Thank you very much. I've done this every day for the last, I don't know how long. Oh, fudge, man. Just so dumb. So dumb. God, so it's just like the amount of time I spend dealing with ChessBase's problems, dude. It's just like, why can't we just, dude, why can't we just make it so hard, dude? It's so freaking hard. Dude, you're killing me. I spent so much time dealing with ChessBase's problems. And it's asking me to reset the password. How about I go to your site and you just tell me, dog, what the password is? I'm on your site. I'm even logged in. Can you just tell me, dude? No, you cannot. Fudge Modellas, dude. Fuck. Screw off, jerk face. Hate you, dude. I hate you. I just despise ChessBase, dude. Jerk. This is why we must, like, the need to have a new chess base is so strong right now. And dude, it's like, we have to do it. Chess Dojo has to do it. We have the game editor and stuff, and we're almost there with the other things. Anyways, rant over. Jeez. All right, I'm just putting in these fine moves over here. It's a fine, fine day for a reunion. It's a fine, fine day for coming home. Oh, I gotta create the search booster and all this stuff, man. I hate it, dude. I hate ChessSpace, man. So not user-friendly. Well, it's a bad sign, my friends. David is tanking here. And one of the problems that David's always had is he can be a maximalist. And by that, like, really try to break this position down. And that's the worst. Like, what you need to do is fairly quickly play one of the moves, because he doesn't know. And this is the problem of not being a regular King's Indian player. He has no idea. Okay? So, is it c6? Is it queen e7? You know. Is it some other move? He has no idea. Yeah. And he needs, and then beyond that, he needs to play quickly here. You know, because, like, let's say ED and then the c6 plan, fine. I'm sure we're going to see that in the database. Knight g4, boom. I'm sure we're going to see that in the database. We're going to see moves like queen e7 and queen e8 and c6 as well. Fine. All those moves fully acceptable. But he's got to do it now. Because he's not going to get any smarter. He's not going to get any smarter thinking about this. There's no calculation happening. He's just sitting a little bit confused because he got tricked in the opening. But his position's fine. It's a little bit worse. Fine. You know. Yep. Whereas White, when White was thinking, White was really doing some devious stuff, thinking, all right, how can I trick Black? You know, very clever. Okay, so back here. And this position has been reached muchos times. And as predicted, our main moves are knight g4, c6, queen e8, queen e7, h6, ed4. And some chump played bishop g4, but we're not going to count that. Who is that chump? It was Fallujah. Terrible move. Terrible move. Probably a blitz game or something. Yeah, so queen e7, queen e8, c6, knight g4, the most common. But if you don't know what you're doing, yeah, no. Probably not. You don't want to play knight g4. Queen e7 scores the best. That actually has a little chess-based thing, has a little hot thing next to it. And h6, you know, Kostya has that in a lot of variations. And it's clever. Here it makes some sense because then knight g4 is a thing. And h6 is always a useful move. So h6 is a thought. ed4 scores poorly. But we have basically 5 main contenders. Kasparov has played knight g4 and c6. Ding Liren. Ding Liren, dude, by the way. He's in a crisis, man. He had his first round with Carlsen today. Didn't even try. Didn't even try. Just like forced to draw with white. Didn't even try. So the psychological damage is so intense with Ding. No one understands what it is. Just that we have big psychological damage going on. All right. So, David, what are you going to do? Nah, this is bad, dude. Nah, he's tanking too long. I guess if I was in this position, I'd be most drawn to like Queen E7 or Queen E8. Queen E8 makes me feel weird, so probably Queen E7. And if I was like part of Kostya's crew, maybe I'd play H6. Yeah. No, H6. Okay, so H6 is an example of a move. It's a little bit of a special sauce move, and I have a feeling. Now, David might actually be considering it because it is in Kostya's. Kostya loves to do it. The big prominent place where he advocated it was, I believe here. Yeah, this is where Kostya wanted to play H6, dude. So, you know, you can imagine playing it. And in the game position, it makes more intuitive sense than it does to me here. Because in the game position, another cool thing about H6 is if ED4, I mean, DE5, which he's not going to do anyway. But here, it has the extra sense of this, where we can feel confident that we have more than enough compensation in this position. Okay, things have happened. H6, holy shit, was played. He did it, dude. Wow. Okay, so David thought for 5 minutes. It was a relay problem. Okay, so he didn't think too long. But then we got D5 after 3 minutes. Knight G4. Bishop C1. F5. Knight D2. Okay, fun. And I feel pretty confident that when I look in our database here, that we're going to see something like that. So bravo for David doing this H6 thing. Now, I just want to stress, after H6, all kinds of moves have been played, of course. And looks like, is this true? Looks like the most common move was actually DE5 after H6. Which, do I understand that? I'm not sure I do understand that. Okay, wait, let me think if I understand that for just for a second. So we go back, DE5. Let's put Knight G4 on the board for a second. Bishop F4, DE5, Bishop G3, maybe is the intention, because now H3 is going to be played, and since the knight can't go back to H6, maybe I'm truly touching this coconut. I don't know. I don't know about that. Anyways, so DE5 was the most commonly played move for white. D5, though, is definitely the most ambitious, and in some ways insane, because now Knight G4, F5 at least makes a lot of sense for black. And, you know, part of the Bishop E3 people, by the way, like Shanklin's course, the idea was on a practical level to basically never castle short, or really we don't want to. But this dude he's already castled. D5 does not score well. Knight G4 is played. And then dude played bishop. Let's see, hold on here. He played Knight G4, Bishop C1. Now get this, you guys. Bishop C1, according to my database, is a novelty. Everybody else played Bishop D2. Now, does it make a difference? Maybe not. Maybe not. All right, so Bishop C1. I'm just going to see if it transposes, maybe. F5. Okay, so now with f5, which is our game position, we have transposed into something, and knight d2 is played. Because there's a game that's actually here, and I'm just going to call it up here. This is like in one of these Title Tuesday games. Just seeing how it went. h6. No, this is saying bishop c1 was played. Okay, that was like a Title Tuesday game against this guy Golubev, who has played a bunch. In those games, white played ef5 instead of knight d2 and knight e1. So I think that at least as far as the database is concerned, this knight d2 move is a novelty. David plays knight f6, natural enough. And I like David's position, dude. I think in terms of what we could have hoped for, this is the best. This is the best we could possibly hope for. Because black has a very King's Indian-y position. Yeah. Now, let me try to say what the drama of the position is. The drama is, how bad is this knight? I've played a lot of games on the white side of this thing, and basically the idea is, if I can contain the knight, I might not get mated. Okay? I might get mated anyway. But the idea is, without the knight, like in terms of a force count question, it is hard to mate me over there. White will play like f3 someday. f3 right now is, of course, an option. And then white will play like rook b1, b4. And that black knight is truly a chump. So one line of play that we could kind of maybe expect would be like f3, f4, rook b1, g5, b4, h5, and then here white would want to think about the options. Black doesn't have to go super fast with the g5, h5. He could also play things like rook f7, bishop f8. Kind of typical stuff. Now, the cool thing about knight d2, knight f6 is knight f6 is a very natural move. And now we're going to let this dude think for a little bit about his move orders. But instead of f3, maybe a strong move would be rook b1. However, on rook b1, you would have to contend with the thought of knight c5, and if f3, a5. Now, white could say, okay, no, white can't say. He can't do this now because I'll take with a bishop and have counterplay. So that's why f3 now is a nice move, because it prevents the knight from going ever to c5, right? Then if the knight goes to c5, we played b4 and we're doing great. So yeah, this, by the way, let's just put that position on the board again. So f3, f4, black has other moves, rook b1, g5, b4. And you guys can see what I'm saying about the narrative, right? This guy's out of the force count question on the king side. But it does serve a role on a6 for slowing down things like the c5 break. So, for example, in this position, it's not immediately obvious to me what white does. And if he ever does something like trade my knight, like c5 and bishop a6, I just rejoice. I just do a little dance and I rejoice, because that thing is terrible. Okay? That thing is terrible. That's my one problem piece. Okay, so looking good for David, dude. I like it. We got a question. Why wouldn't black just play c6 and knight c7 to bring the knight back? Well, look, though. First of all, c6. You do not, in general, want to move your pieces on the weaker side. Our weak side is the queen side. White's strong side is the queen side. Our strong side, king side. White's weak side is the king side. Why? Because the pawns are pointing. We have more force over there on the king side too. So that's the first problem with c6. The next is when you play knight c7, you got to be like, oh, well, where then? We're going to go to knight e8? You know, it's a rough life. Yeah. There might be at some point a dream of popping in here and popping in here. I think if it was black's move, we would play knight c5, force f3, and then play f5, a5 and try to keep the knight there. Yeah. Let me just do a little bit of a dance here. So knight f3, e5, d5. Bear with me a second. This position feels similar to me, where on a6 the knight might not want to be there. And so, for example, rook b1, f5, f3. So I just brought this up as a comparison position in the Petrosian variation, where the good news for black in our position is that the bishop on c1, a little bit awkward. Here, the bishop on f2 will play a nice role in fighting for the squares on the queen side. Contrast this position to this one. Excuse me. This one. And his opponent played a3. I don't know. Okay, let's think about a3. a3 is the attempt to be very clever. I'm going to see if we get this in the database via some kind of move transposition. 6, a3. No games found. Okay, that makes sense. Kind of rare, actually, that we're on move like 10 of a normalish looking King's Indian and we have ourselves an original position. So David goes for it, plays knight c5. Okay, so the claim is, from white, is that now I'm going to let the knight come in, but then I'm going to play for domination of the knight. So I think we're going to see f3, a5. That's what I think we're going to see. And white has to be careful not to allow a4. If we imagine b3, f4, rook b1, g5. Oh, maybe bishop d7 first. Bishop d7. This way, if b4, I can take, knight a4. Correct. Now, queen c2, and the point of this move is, if b4 directly, it would be super cool if I could play knight b5, but I can't because of Taco and Taco. So therefore, bishop d7, queen c2 first, and if g5, again, we're playing for domination, and if the knight goes here, now we're saying that the knight is cut. So that's a pretty standard idea that in terms of what it looks like with a3, it looks like that's what's going on. Abdul doesn't like a3. It's a little frisky, but the point is that the claim is that the knight on c5 will be poor. Knight c5 played. I like that David's moving fast. Fast-ish. And I'm going to go make myself a cup of coffee. Dude is tanking. No, he played ef5. You know, and I was away from the board, and I was thinking maybe that's the intention, so that we can play b4 next. I got a lot of questions about this move, though, Bows. Lots of questions. Because both gf and bishop f5 look pretty reasonable. Now, my first question would be, what about bishop f5? Because then, if b4, I can play knight d3. And in general, you know, they say Russian schoolboys, they always know not to recapture with the bishop, but rather with the pawn. But in this case, if we control this square, then we should feel relatively good about our lives. Now, maybe the intention is to play this. That's what we call highfalutin. Okay, highfalutin chess. Okay, so if David, with the idea that if you go here, we'll eventually trade this guy off and we'll win the battle of the e4 square. But it is very loosey-goosey. Very loosey-goosey. And then, I suppose, gf b4 is the big idea. And the issue is, after knight d7, where is the knight going to go from there? I do suspect this position has to be playable, though. For example, queen c2, e4, and now the intention to go back. So, it feels, first of all, like this dude, he might have been trying to trick David in the opening, but he kind of tricked himself. He kind of tricked himself, dude. Yeah. So I think this is we could call this a pleasant choice between bishop f5 and gf. I think they're both fine. I think they are radically different in nature. Bishop f5 is just the claim that I'm just fine. I'm a fine man. I'm doing fine. gf5 is a much stronger claim of saying maybe I'm more than fine. Maybe I'm more than fine. Right. So, like, if you were playing a lower-rated player, if David was playing a lower-rated player, he'd probably play gf. I mean, the bishop on f5 is just a good piece, you know. So, it's hard to talk too much smack about that bishop. Abdul's talking about gf, b4 here, and knight b3. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Black has a lot of different options here. Here, a thought maybe Abdul's thinking is if I ever do play e4, that he could play knight d4. And that maybe queen c2 next. Definitely thought. One nice thing for white here is that if queen e8, we could play knight b5. So these are some of the things David, I'm sure, is worried about. In general, just our knight is a chump, right? But we got moves here. We could play rook f7. What does he do? Bishop takes. I think that's a much more sober move to play bishop takes. Just with the idea that in general, if we control e4, then we shouldn't be too concerned about the heresy. The heresy of bishop takes f5. So first point is to see is that the whole idea of b4 is less about queenside expansion and more about dominating the knight. But after this b4, knight d3 looks good. And even this position can be very hard for white to prove any advantage. So white now needs a good move. That's not so easy, too. It feels like we're just comfortably equalizing here. And we'll see if Fedoseev has some idea that I haven't seen yet. But this looks very easy for black. We're better developed too, my friends. We're better developed, and there's no reason to say now at this point that our center control is worse. Abdul says maybe g4. Oh la la. g4 would be the only move that would kind of make this whole thing make sense. You know? Let's put it on the board for a second. So g4. Now, if we play bishop d7, then b4 will be a bummer. So we'll play bishop d3. And now let's first ask this question, b4. Can I play this move? That's what I want to do. Maybe I cannot. That's just what I want to do. Whew, a little hot and heavy. But if we survive, we're going to be fine. One basic point would be here, 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 and we just believe in black. You know, we believe in black. So, if we play for this fantastic g4 move, oh, something was played. Knight f3. Now, g4 too highfalutin, boss. That's too highfalutin. Okay, so knight f3, and clearly the intention here is to say that if Pruess plays e4, then we have knight d4. Okay, now, you guys know that I've been yelling at Pruess for moving too fast, or too slow. This is definitely the moment where he needs to think. There are muchos candidates moves here. I definitely believe in the black position. The most natural move would be a5. I think black's position is just fine, dude. He's doing fine. One thing, another move that might be possible is to play g5. So that we just gain a little space, and if any kind of b4, then we'll play knight e4. We could start thinking about g5 after, say, a5 too. One cool thing about g5 is at some point we might want to play queen e8 to g6. And just with the idea that us controlling this diagonal is what the game is about. This square in particular. I'll go ahead and say control of that square is what this position is about. Which is why I believe in David's position here. One way to think about this position too is to think of it as a mirror image of a French structure. So if you imagine like a rook on c8, d5 pawn here, e6 pawn here, maybe a bishop here, and black knight here, controlling the key in that position, d4 square, right? And so if I just flip it like that and I ask myself, who do I like? I like black in that position too, because we control the big key square. Oh, moves were made. G5. Look at that, dude. David's going for it. He don't play. He don't play. Yeah, okay. Now it's getting interesting. Okay. Now, I don't think David is threatening G4 yet. Could be wrong on that, but I don't think he's threatening it yet. At some point, we might play G4, though. A big part of G5 is that it gives more flexibility to our bishop here. A very fun position. So with G5, David is basically saying, bro, I am not worried about B4. In fact, on b4, I think I have two options, both knight ce4 and even the mundane knight d7. Because after knight f3, boss, I'm not you're not winning this square. You just ain't. No squares for you, buddy. Now, if I was going to be worried about knight e4, it would be because, let's say, like, so the issue is, would this work, bishop d3? I'm gonna go ahead and say no. What would the point be? We want to trade these bishops. But here we go, pop, and we say auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. So that's no possible. White goes back to bishop e3. You were just there, buddy. You were just there. Makes sense, though. So white's default move here is, I think, queen e7. We could play queen e8 as well. Aesthetically, queen e8 really appeals to me. Oh, yeah, black is doing fine. Abdul's talking to me about g4. He was in love with the g4 move. So, bishop f5, g4. By the way, like, the long-term problemitos and the casitos. But anyways, this is what Abdul was talking about. Bishop d3, b4, knight ce4. I see. Here is what Abdul was saying. Yeah? Well, let's take a look at this g4. It was really the only move. Oh, my God. Take it easy. Oh. I just had to wait for that thing to clear. That's a real spicer right there. Bishop d3. b4. No, there's some truth to what Abdul's saying, man. So still controversial. So bishop d7, we lose the piece, it seems, to b4. Bishop c8, b4, knight d7. Bishop d3, probably. It doesn't look good. No, it looks terrible. Huh. Abdul, by the way, my friends, is using his computer. We just be aware. Just be aware. He's using his computer. That's his thing. We're not saying nothing. It's kind of interesting sometimes. There too. So that's a good variation, though. Well, hold on, though. Okay, let's say I go here, 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 here. How bad is this for me? Might not be that bad. I've had positions like this as white, and it can dry up kind of fast. But if I was just intuitively going to play it for white, it'd maybe be like f3. You know, I don't know. But even here, you got to watch out for weird stuff like maybe e4. So, I do think g4 was a testing move, though, Abdul. I totally agree with you. And here we do not want Pruess to be tanking forever. I think the game, you know, let's call it queen e7, fine. Now, a King's Indian specialist might have played queen e8 with the idea of queen g6. Queen e7, though, is a very natural move. Yeah, I kind of like queen e8, at least aesthetically, more. Now, a typical issue is whenever white does play b4, it loosens him on this diagonal in ways that aren't always satisfying for white. But if you imagine, like, well, what is he going to do besides b4? If he played knight d2, it would truly be kind of hilarious, right? If he played knight d2 now. Gritty Pants is asking about a5. Well, here's the thing. We want to play a5 if we're afraid of b4. But I'm not sure we are afraid of b4. Like in this position of b4, I think we're happy just to play knight e4 and continue on our merry way. So the whole point of b4 would be to dominate that queen, that knight, right? We talked about that earlier. And now I don't feel like that knight is getting dominated. He's just going to trade himself off. So that looks good. Patrick Daly says, I don't like allowing bishop c5. Let me stress that Fedoseev, no way in hells, is ever going to play bishop c5. That is the good bishop, and this would be a positional calamity to take on c5. Now, I want to say that about bishop c5, there are situations where the computer wants to play bishop c5, and it would be for tactical reasons. Like if there's a tactical meaning behind bishop c5, then maybe you could do it. back in the olden times, you were considered a real chump if you ever took on c5. And right, so unless you have something amazing after bishop c5, you really don't want to give up your good bishop. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One interesting question is, what would we do if it was our move? We had a lot of different moves, like rook ae8, knight g4, knight e4, and at some point maybe g4. At the moment, though, it always seems like g4 gets wailed on with knight h4. And I can't go bishop d7 because of knight g6, which is a reason to have played queen e8. So queen e8, that's my, that's definitely my inclination. Alex is asking, would knight g4 force bishop c5? Maybe. One thing about knight g4, though, is the knight really doesn't belong there. So, first of all, white has to come up with a plan. I don't know, actually. If I was white here, it would be kind of hard for me to decide what to do. Yeah. Knight d2 seems just hilarious because he's been in this bishop e3, knight d2, and he's changed it around again, you know. Also, it allows knight d3, so we're just going to say knight d2. That isn't it. In fact, this shows nicely how our knight can get involved. And if he doesn't take, we have knight f4, which is just annoying, right? So yeah, kind of a hard moment for white to know what to do. We got a thought about b4 here, yeah. But then imagine, okay, then what now? What now, brown cow? Hard to say. I'm sure he's looking at b4. Absolutely, one of the candidate moves. Oh, let's flip it around for a second. So, Abdul's talking about knight e1. Okay, let's just like list out the candidate moves. Okay, we got b4, knight d2, knight e1. It's hard to know exactly. h3 is a really wrong looking move, but maybe. h3 would be like a super GM level move. Rook e1. Rook e1 might even be the most challenging move, because then we have to worry about the queen on the long diagonal. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say it wasn't the first move to come to mind, but that's my gut. What happened here? Did he play rook e1? Wait, let me refresh, because it looks like he played rook e1. He played rook e1. Oh, I'm a GM today! Rook e1 was played. Kind of quick. All right, now we're going to flip it back for poor David here. Did the color of my board change? It looks like it changed. Now rook f7 pretty quickly. In principle, I like the move a lot, rook f7. He wants to just play rook af8 and start a party. All right, now I was calling the bishop c5 a chump move, but it is, since it's kind of forcing, we have to first ask about it. So here, 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 here. Maybe here. Okay, so this is what he's going to be looking at, just because this is now a forcing continuation. So dude will definitely consider this. It makes sense after you play rook e1 to do this. One dumb idea I just had is, how dumb would that be? Kind of dumb? Some definite compensation. You know, is it special? Those bishops are strong. You'd have to have the cajon, just monster cojones, you know, to play that move. I'd be worried about tactical stuff too, like queen f3, if bishop g6, d6, pawn takes, knight d5. I'd be concerned. I still don't know. Maybe you could do it. Okay, so rook f7. Dave played that pretty quick. So now, by the way, now we're going to get the calculation time. Calculation time has now begun, my friends. And David is just basically claiming that bishop c5, no way. But dude just did play rook e1. Could be kind of annoying. Okay, so I don't... Patrick Daly likes bishop c5. Gritty Pen says David has pretty big cojones. Not always the best feature of his chess, but he does have those big cojones, my friend. No doubt about that. He's got they're big, dude. Big old ones too. One curious thing about this position too is like the black's dark square bishop is now so strong that even if we imagine white winning the pawn on e4, it's not necessarily over Grover or anything like that. We could consider, let's just put rook f8 on the board. We could do other things, but I'm just pointing out. Rook c1 was played. That's a weenie move. That's a weenie move. Sometimes when super GMs play chess, you're like, what? What are they doing? So my gut take on rook c1 is that Fedoseev is tossing the ball into black's court and just saying, well, what is it that you want? And this gives David the chance of making a mistake. But honestly, like, well, he's got all kinds of good moves to play here. Pretty pantsy, that's fair to say. Yeah, he's just sitting. See if David cracks, dude. All right, so knight g4 is obviously a move. Rook f8 is a move. Rook e8 is a move. Given that if you just played rook f7, certainly your next instinct would be to play rook a f8. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what is it really, bud, that rook c1 does? Gets out of the way of the bishop on g7 looking at the coconut, right? So if we were afraid of b4, it also maybe suggests that later on b4, it suggests b4, right? More than anything else, it suggests b4. So it also controls c3. Okay, so here's the thought. Let's say David continues naturally with rook af8. Then b4. Knight d7 is fully playable here, but I'm going to first put it here just to show. Knight takes, and now bishop d3. And here white can say, at least I am cracking the e4 square. There's no knight c3 in this position. Okay. Yeah. All right, so I think that is the intenzione of rook c1. In addition to just keeping the game going. It's probably fair to say we're going to get some time pressure in this game. Just King's Indian games almost always go time pressure. This, by the way, is our position, not with rook at f8. That's right, Viral. He's just sitting. Just sit and see if David messes up. G4, we can think about. I don't know if it's a good move or anything, but we can think about it. So the idea would be, so there's no, knight g6 no longer wins the exchange. And yeah, we'd have to analyze this move. But then we have moving the queen, and does the knight really get out? It kind of does. It always has knight h4, so this one isn't believable. But we would like to play, at some point, it would be nice to make g4 work. Here's an obvious variation. If knight g4, let's just say you keep the bishop, then it looks to me like this is got to be advantage to black. Right? Okay. So, by the way, maybe not so special. Maybe not so special. No, I got knight d3 at the end, my good friends. Now, is it a little complicated? Sure, it's complicated. But I mean, b4 probably knight d3, and it looks like we're on top. Complicated, though. Okay. So, on knight g4, this is a forcing move that demands some calculation. Okay? How do we feel about ye old bishop c5? Now, I think we have to say that bishop d3, this is an improved version for white of what we looked at before. Okay, so we're going to say no bueno to that. So we're ruling out knight g4. Knight g4 is like, in Top Gun when he leaves his wingman. the wingman is really this square. You can't, unless you got something amazing, you don't want to leave this square. All right, a5 is not done. What did he do? Rook af8 continues with the intention. So I am anticipating now b4. And really a basic question is going to be, are the rooks on the f file chumps or are they heroes? Right? That's our question. Chumps or heroes? All right, let's flip the board. They are chumps looking to be heroes like Jim Bros after the first month. That's a good metaphor. I like that one. No, it's definitely dangerous for white. So again, if knight d2, knight d3 looks great. Okay, so I think, to me, rook c1 only makes sense in conjunction with b4. Let's put it here first. On bishop takes, I'm concerned about bishop d3. Maybe I shouldn't be. I mean, excuse me, on knight takes, I'm concerned about bishop d3. And I'm just concerned that maybe white is doing okay. It's still kind of complicated, but I'm concerned he's doing okay. I don't know. Like, look at this move, g4. That looks, I mean, that's at least pleasant for white, because now if knight d2, we have knight f2. And if bishop takes knight d2, we can just go back, and we have a nice position. We got a nice position. Yeah. So, and that was also, I gotta say, b4, knight c4, knight takes. I gotta say also that bishop takes also looks fine for black. Oh, dude, David's doing great. Now, one of the bummers actually about watching chess is the viewers don't know if somebody offers a draw, okay? And it would be cool if we knew. Like, for example, if there was something a person had to do to register the draw offer, right? Okay, we got to move. B4 was played. I'm anticipating 94. Somewhat, you know, you had to like do something. Now, here's why I'm talking about it. Because if I was white against a lower rated player and things were looking a little bit dodgy, I might want to consider offering a draw. Now, one thing I will tell you about Pruess is that guy will never agree. He will never agree, even if he stood worse. A guy would never agree. He would just never would. But anyways, it would still be interesting as a fan to know if at some point Fedoseev is like, dude, I don't like this coconut touch thing you got going on, and I'd like to offer a draw. Okay, one crazy thing that white should not even be thinking about is bishop a7. In addition to potentially getting your bishop trapped with b6, even just rook a8, and I'm going to take your coconut on a3, that kind of thing. It would be madness. But keep our eye on that idea. It would be madness, but, sometimes it does work. There would have to be tactics with like bishop a7, rook a8, knight b5, and if c6, taco, knight d6. It's all very unbelievable. I'm just pointing it out as a thought. The bummer for white is like, well, what are we doing now, man? What is our little plan? Okay, let's flip it back. I would say the most natural would be to play like knight takes. Let's put bishop takes. Knight d2. Yeah, something like this. Now, we all kind of feel, at least I do, that black is the one to be preferred here. But from white's perspective, he could just say to himself, I'm doing fine. Doing fine here, buddy. Maybe I'm not better, but I'm doing fine. And it's true that in a position like this, the long-term goal of white could just be to say, look, your bishop, buddy, nah, it's not working so good. But it's also true, like on bishop g6, I will someday consider playing e4. Okay, knight takes happened. And David has a little bit of a choice here, right? Bishop takes feels more natural to me. I think one key variation too, by the way, is bishop takes. There's no bishop d3 because I make tacos and I make pacos, which is what I think I would want to do if I were white. I would want to do that. So bishop takes looks reasonable to me. And then if we imagine knight d2, let's put on g6 first. I don't know what white does here. But that could be our thing. Bishop takes was played. Knight d2. Oh, I'm a GM today. I called that one, buddy. Okay, so g6 is the most natural square because we just want the rooks to be open. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. So on bishop g6, the thing that any bishop move really, white can think about playing c5 now, right? And black, the real drama here, and he has to think about it now because it'll matter. It looks like he played it quickly. Bishop g6. Is then how does black create counterplay after c5? The thought would be that on c5, knight takes d5, bishop c4, that white has got compensation, but he might not have compensation there. I might just be able to take back with the queen and then play c6. And black would love to make a claim about those rooks being awesome. But for them to be awesome, he needs a place to put his knight effectively. Okay, well, let's ask the obvious question. How is it going to go down on c5? Let's imagine knight d5. Maybe I do this here. Pawn takes. So that now if queen takes, I have bishop c5. And that looks annoying to face. That variation might not actually be over, though. Like queen takes here, here. Oh, oh la la la. Oh, see, this is where it starts getting hectic, my friend. So, but the point would be that if pawn takes, then white plays here and says, you know what? I got at least compensation. I got at least compensation now. Yeah. So that's why c5, well, c5 is the, let's call it what it is. It's the forcing move that we got to have some ideas against. Oh, Dina, thank you for rating us. Yeah, we're looking at Pruess's game here. I'm sure you had a monster stream. This is, Pruess is one of the senseis at the Chess Dojo. He's playing this 2700 chump, and we like his position, though we're a little concerned about what would happen after c5. We're not entirely sure. We really want to believe in black's position, though. If c5 is no bueno, then black can consider f3. Yeah. It's pretty hot and heavy. The queen moves away, by the way. Let's say you play queen b3 to play c5 later. It feels to me like knight h5 would be at least okay for us with knight f4 ideas. We can't do it now because of bishop h5. So, by the way, Raiders, we're not using any computers, so I have no computer analysis of this position. It just feels like white made several moves that they weren't the most forcing, weren't the most punishing move. A move was played here, knight f1. Well, we weren't expecting that, my friends. Maybe clever, maybe. Maybe clever. All right, let's flip it around. And just ask ourselves, oh my gosh. Knight f1 wasn't part of my bingo card or whatever they say. Maybe kind of clever. So when we play knight g3, we'll be touching this key square. We'll be touching this key square. And again, white's hope is to say that this bishop won't ever do anything, you know? So, for example, if we could play g4, which I don't think we can because he'll just take it, but if we could play g4 and h5, maybe we'd do some fancy coconut stuff with bishop h6. We also have the dream of opening this dude up at some point like that. Now, knight f1 is maybe our clarion call. So just go for it with e4. But I don't know. That's some pretty hardcore stuff, dude. And Liard says he likes it because now c5 can be played. But notice when you play c5, you kind of want your knight close to the queen side so you can go murder me, right? All right, so this is definitely a moment where Pruess needs to think. I would say if he spends 20 minutes here, I'm okay. I'm okay with him spending 20 minutes here because he needs to find something now. We're going to say a couple obvious things. Knight e4 isn't it because of f3. At least I don't see what you're doing after that. e4 is the most highfalutin move, but it's pretty abstract because we're not threatening anything directly. We're just kind of getting our stuff out. And the knight on g3 will be a good defender. The other real bummer, too, let's just say, is I'd love to play h5, but this coconut is hanging. Well, knight f1 is a very challenging move. Oh, this would be hard for me to play this position, man, because it would be like I didn't anticipate knight f1. I also have a problem when somebody plays a move where like let's say I believed I was better before, which I kind of believed black was, and now after knight f1, I just start feeling a sense of ennui or some fancy French word where I'm like, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here, man. Another idea, I'm not sure I like it, but is queen d7 intending g4. Just want to gain some space with this. However, c5 is the big question in the room after that move, though. SB McManus also talking about moving the queen somewhere. Sure, right? Ooh, this is a hard choice. It would be cool to stop c5 if we could. All right, let me just say with knight f1, white's making a positional claim that these rooks aren't doing anything, and this bishop is horrible. And we really would like to touch this coconut so that, we could touch this coconut. I'm not really seeing how to do it, though. Knight f1 is a very challenging move. It's the kind of the move that maybe the computer wouldn't be impressed by, but and you're just sitting there and you're like, well, what do I do? And it's pretty hard. White's got simple notions of knight g3 and c5. And it's not clear how we improve the position. Uh-oh. No, I don't like it. Well, Viral is talking about knight e4 provoking f3. Maybe, but it's got to be said that that move f3 isn't necessarily a bad thing for white. Not necessarily a bad thing. All right, guys, let's think about this. This is where the time pressure is going to start too, my friends. don't like it one bit. One reason, well, I don't know. One reason to have played bishop f5 is at least then we could dream about playing g4, but we can't do that now. And g4 is in itself like nothing special. Okay, here's a thought. Queen d7, c5, g4. First thing I'm terrified of is c6. It looks horrendous. I don't want to deal with that. No, so that's already something I didn't like. I mean, maybe, maybe. By the way, our intention here is to play h5, say that the knight is not welcome on g3 because of h4, and then maybe knight e4 is going to be a thing. So it takes us several moves to set up an idea here. Okay, the other hope with queen d7 might be to take this pawn. I don't like it. But that could be a thought. Notice that rook c5 fails to knight e4, and bishop c5. Maybe we can do this. Maybe. I don't know. If I imagine snip and snop, queen goes somewhere, and we take somehow. That's spicy little sauce right there. That's a thought. So queen d7 could be played with the notion of maybe taking on c5 if, Queen d7 is growing on me. We'd want to check the c5 move and then also just the idea of playing for g4, h5, and then knight e4. Okay, I like it. Yeah, Abdul's talking about c6. I don't like it. Let's consider it. At this point, David's going to be thinking about everything. So let's put it on the board. I don't like it. You guys knew I wasn't going to like it. Why'd you tell me to do it? Knight g3 looks good. DC looks good. I don't like it. DC and then knight g3 looks good. Yeah. But Abdul's using the computer, so you never know. That might be a computer suggestion. Abdul wants queen d7, g4, and then c6. Oh, maybe. I don't know why we're playing c6, though. Oh, David, this is going to be his longest thing. It is getting a little spicy with the time. All right, my friends. I got anxiety here. I got chess anxiety. So I'm going to go look very briefly at this Norway thing, games. And I guess the round one is done. So here, why is it showing me round two? Round one classical, May 27th. There we go. Oh, this is still happening, dude. Fabi drew Naga. I guess people were telling me he had a nice position. And then the famous Prague against Ali Reza. That's going to be a draw probably. Anything could happen, but it looks like a very drawish. Okay, so we'll go back. Boom. Knight f1. Right, so Abdul's saying queen d7, c5, g4, c6 looks winning for white. I agree. And so if queen d7, the question is, can we get away with this move? Maybe. There's a variety of ways that we have to fear for our lives, though. It may be true. David is a pawn grubber, my friends, too. So, okay, knight e4 was played. I don't like it. He thought for 12 minutes. And now we're anticipating f3, knight f6. So let's look. f3, knight f6. Let's see something happens. f3 was in play, knight f6 was played. Wait, no, we're here. Why does it say, let me refresh. All right, so now we got our knight e4 on the board. f3's force, right? So let's go f3, knight f6. Knight g3 looks good. c5 looks good. But what white's going to calculate is queen c2. Uh-oh. Holy smokies. Queen c2 is a very maximalist move. Then bishop f5 is played. Oh. So, by the way, I didn't approve of knight e4 because of f3, and I think white was just totally fine there. This might be worse, of course. And David's intention is if bishop d3 is going to play knight takes f2. In general, knight takes f2 is his intention. So queen c2 was a highfalutin move. Interesting, okay. Yeah, no, he's been playing a lot of highfalutin moves. So bishop d3, knight f2 is our intention. This could get tactical real quick. Okay, the next thing we got to consider is what is going to happen on g4. This big question. If bishop h7, bishop d3, it looks bad. It looks bad. Though maybe we just go back. Okay, maybe we just I don't know, man. Like snippos, pippos, knight g3, and oh, it ain't what we wanted for dinner, bud. You know, that ain't what we wanted. Okay. So now Fedoseev has interesting tactical ideas with g4. David could sack a piece here. Very hard to believe, though, because our friend the knight comes here, and then what are we doing? And then what are we doing? Yeah. Prediction started. Somebody made a prediction? Win channel points if you make the correct prediction. Here we go. What are we predicting? Result. Oh. Fedoseev wins. Okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll make my prediction in a little bit. I first want to know how I feel about G4. Because if G4 wins, G4 wins, then I'm going to vote for G4, bud. I don't know. Does anyone see an idea for black after G4? No, I know bishop h7 is check. Oh, this is Kostya maybe talking. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Kostya's talking this business. It's always check. It's always check. So let me just appreciate something here for a second. This is for my own benefit. The chump in me, if I was playing this, my automatic thought would be f3. Probably most chump GMs thought. But queen c2, like knight e4, by the way, I feel is very questionable just because of f3. But in any case, queen c2 is a move to be like, oh, we want to end your life maybe. Pruess pretty quickly played bishop f5. And now bishop h5, which might even be stronger than g4. That might even be stronger. That might be a real pain in the you-know-what, dude. Okay, let's make the obvious move and see what happens here. Rook f6. Do I understand bishop h5? Well, what will happen now? Okay, so one brutalistic thing here is if I move the queen somewhere, I don't know where, okay? I have no idea where. Let's put it, I don't know. Let's put it here. Now I am legit threatening f3. That could be a real coconut touch right there. So then the obvious question will be, well, am I going to save my soul with g4? Maybe. But if black just wanted to be, well, maybe I was going to say if he wanted to be a simpleton, he could play knight g3. But black can play queen d7 later to support g4. Okay, this is again a move. I mean, g4 looked very strong. Okay, maybe there's something wrong with it I don't see. Then the intention seems to be to put the queen somewhere. Okay, let's see what happened. Bishop h5. Pruess. Why did it make a little sound, though? Why did it make that sound? It seems like rook f6. It's hard to imagine another move here. Poor Pruess, dude. He's thinking about all the variety of ways where he could get wasted after rook f6. I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I feel like Fedoseev probably sees something I don't hear. So if you guys see an idea, So the intention would be queen e2, g4, and I'm just barely hanging on to my coconuts. All right, we do have a move. Knight c5. Clever. Clever. I have to admit, I wasn't even thinking about it. Now, the bad news about this exchange is that Black will be trading off all of their pieces, or most of their pieces, but not this guy. This knight c5, maybe. Okay, maybe it's growing on me. Then also there's the queen sacrifice question. Let's address the queen sacrifice question first. Okay, so snippos, hippos, crippos, tickos, and crickos. It seems like it should be fine for Black, right? Should be okay. Yeah. Okay. So then, sounds like a move was made. Sometimes I have to refresh for the move to happen. Now we're definitely heating up. It's getting hot in here. Dude, can I just say something? What was wrong with G4, buddy? What was wrong with G4? Bishop H5. You know what I did? I kind of trusted Fedoseev. I was like, yeah, he's got to play Rook F6. I trusted him. I'm not going to trust you anymore, buddy. Allowing Knight C5. Seems like Black is fine. I'm getting a little click sound, but then when I refresh, I'm not really seeing anything. That's right. All right, party break for me. This is heating up. I don't know. I think David's fine. Oh, it smells like Fedoseev wasn't thinking about that, bud. Yeah, he keeps on making that little click sound, but I still don't see. Oh, I know why it's making it click, because I got this Norway thing open. We're going to call that one a draw, so I'm going to call that one dead. Looks like 3 draws there. Well, maybe Alireza can. No, it's just, come on. If you want to. Well, maybe you could say Furusha. The computer might think Furusha's a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to close the door. Bang. Bang. All right, so there we have it. Queen E2, Knight D3. Pruess is fine. He is fine. There is nothing wrong with his position. And now, Pruess will be wanting to play E4 sooner rather than later. Yeah, E4. Bring that, but I don't know. I was going to base that bishop open, taste that bishop open, something like that. Knight G3. Now, okay, let me just say the obvious. The basic move here would be bishop G6. That would be the basic move. We're in no hurry to take a rook. There it is, played instantly. I haven't done my research, but I'm going to guess that there's more time added on move 40. So both players, you know, they just got to take it. This is a difficult moment, too, for White. I don't know what he's supposed to do. Maybe F3. I should have played F3 when he played Knight E4, man, just like the chump GM wanted you to. Oh, man. Yeah. Okay, so the basic idea of F3 is just to inhibit E4. Now, Abdul, on F3, we don't want to take, we're not going to take a rook until he begs us for it, right? We're not going to take the rook until he begs. It would be nice if we had something more than just, I don't know, what do you want to call it, basic position? Because after F3, White at least has positional ideas of standard like Knight E4 stuff and C5 and yada yada, containing the bishop on G7. H3 is played. This dude is highfalutin moves, man. Highfalutin moves. So my big question for Black would definitely be, what about E4 now? What are we doing here? What about E4 now? Free that bishop, son. Free him. Yeah, it's looking interesting. All right, so there we got H3. The only reason I could see to take one of the rooks would be if we had specific ideas against, like, rook C1 or bishop C1. H3, man. Oy. Allowing E4. Okay. One thing that David does have to be mild, just mild, not big worried, but mildly worried, is does bishop A7 actually ever work? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to say no. It does not. But at some point, he's going to have to worry about it. E4, man. Look at that move. We just open the bishops. Let's go. Let's go. If I call this move, I'm not allowed to shout I'm a GM today. I have to say I'm an IM today. Well, at the moment, we don't have to worry about c5 because the d5 pawn is hanging. And it's going to be really hard for white to ever play c5 because we own the light squares. In general, oh my gosh. In general, we don't want to move pawns on the queen side. I feel strongly about e4. E4's got to come, my friend. Let's play it. Let's go. E4, E4, E4. All right, what did he do? A6, a sad chump move. A sad chump move. Doesn't look right. Now, it does ask white a simple question, which is like, well, what is it that you want to do to me? If this were a blitz game, somebody would probably move a rook, and force me to take. Pruess is crazy, though. He might leave. You could see Pruess leaving the knight there. You could also imagine a Prussiekins dreaming about a b5 someday. I hope he's not dreaming about it, but that could be part of his dream. In fact, if we imagine it were white's move right now, that would be balls to the walls, but you could consider b5. That'd be highfalutin. Okay, that would definitely be highfalutin. Well, Pruess is playing well this game. Also, his opponent's playing weird, dude. I mean, let's just highlight the moves I think were weird. D5 in response to H6. So this position, that was controversial. This was a little weird. Instead of bishop c1. That was weird. That was weird. He's already, black I thought was already fine at this point. And then this knight f1 move was weird, but potentially very interesting. And then queen c2, weird. I still don't know if g4 was in fact winning the ball game. Maybe I'm missing something here, but it looked real evil, that g4 move. All right, here we go. a6, and now f3 is played. And that's a bummer for me, because now I don't see how Prussiekins wants to get his bishop on g7 free. I thought white should have played f3, b4 instead of h3, right? So white finally is saying, oh, maybe I'll just stop Pruess's business. And it's a slightly advantageous version because if we imagine here, I don't know what black's going to do, but the point is that knight e4 is not yet a threat because I have g4. So h3 is in itself a useful move. And now David's problem is about finding a plan. Now, remember, I said, I don't know if I like it. But I said, maybe dude would consider b5. It is balls of steel to play b5, my friends. I don't know. I don't know. Point is obviously to win the d5 pawn. You're opening up the rook on c1. Is it incredibly terrifying? Yes, it is. But there are concrete cuestiones. Makes me real nervous. For example, pop, pop, let's say pop, and now let's just say I take. And the default move would just be bishop c1. Maybe rook c1, but bishop c1 and our bishop on g7 is a chump. Okay. So I don't like it. I'm trying to rationalize this a6 move, which I really didn't like from Dave. Yeah, so let's just say the obvious. A6 instead of e4 really creates a long-term question mark for this bishop. And this is the phase of the game where we're just playing chess now. And, you know, plans must be found. Oh, and I have to predict. I don't want to predict that David's going to win. I don't think I'm allowed to predict, dude. I don't have points. I'm not allowed here, man. Predict. Oh, introducing channel points, dude. Unlock rewards. Well, how come I'm not unlocked? I feel like I should be, I should have dojo privilege. Anyways. Currently we have Fedoseev leading the charge here. With David only, the people didn't like David winning. No, they don't believe it. If David had played e4 instead of a6, I would have had more belief. I would have had more belief. Submarine Mike thinks it's a draw now. I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about that. Black has a very simple problem. How to activate bishop g7. And I don't see some obvious way to do it. And if it's White's move, he's going to play knight e4. That's his move, knight e4. Thank you very much. And then you'll be forced to take, and White can claim that they're a little bit better. There's a lot of endgames in the Petrosian variation that look a little bit like that. Petrosian himself cranked some dudes in those endgames. Late middle games, we could call them. Oh, a6 was a real... I don't know. I don't like it. Now, to be fair, Mike, it seems like he had that move right away, too. You know? Seems like he had that move right away, too. So I don't understand that, really. It got real fancy with h3. And then, you know, just that e4 was just like a glaring chance. Well, stay menu is if you play knight f4, buddy, you're down the exchange. And on knight f4, we don't even have to take you, but yeah, we can take you, and our knight is going to be amazing. The knight was going to go to e4, and again, the bishop on g7 is just not doing anything. You're talking about ef4, but then the rook isn't doing anything on the f file. You know, David is a romantic at heart, though, so he is considering that f4. Really, the real bummer is, what are you supposed to do, David? David, what have you done to your position bows? Oh no. What have you done? Queen e7 intending h5. Okay, here's a thought. So on f3, maybe here we could consider this. And then our point would be that if knight e4, I take this one, and then on the natural rook c1, I have this move. But I don't have that once h3 is thrown in. Here's our position. Abdul wants knight c1. Maybe knight c1, but what do you do then? There's no rush, Abdul. Take on c1. One crazy idea is, of course, to chuck it with e4. Just chuck it so that you free your coconut. I don't like it, but you could chuck the coconut right there. Leard's talking about queen d7. Well, Chess Dojo, he played a6, dude. No one knows. There's a lot of weird moves. There's a lot of weird moves, man. There's a lot of weird moves. But David needs a plan here, Bows. That's our little problem. Very hard to find a plan. Dun, 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 dun. What happened after bishop h5? Oh, so in this position, we didn't understand why g4 wasn't winning. So bishop h5, dude played knight c5. I'm gonna admit it, I didn't see it. And here, general sense was that black was okay. But here, I don't understand why white didn't play f3. Played h3. I didn't understand why black didn't play e4. It just seems, it's calling to me, Kostya. It's calling to me. He did not do it. He played the weenie move. Then f3 happened, and now we got c6. C6 might be positional resignation, my friends. Because now, yeah, because now. Because now. All right, so white has a choice, very pleasant, between dc and knight e4. Both seem problematic. If you were worried, you could even play rook ed1, intending knight c1, bishop c1, if you were worried. And that position also looks better for white. Now, I think we're talking. I think what is this? Abdul wants to do this, but then Rook D1. I don't know which rook you want, but the problem is, I take either one. I do get to play D5. So that's like the one variation that looks reasonable for our friend. So right, we got Rook D1 now, Knight E4, and DC. One hope for David, I'm sure, is pop, pop, Knight E4, and then to get to play that move. No, you got to take on C1 first, or E1. I don't know. Let's pick that one first. And then D5. And, here you could say maybe you're alive. I think he is, if he got this position. So our main questiones, I think, are Knight E4 or the very basic Rook D1. Might be something else too, but let's look at this one first. So here, I don't know which one. This one, maybe we could do it this way. Yeah, maybe we could do it this way. These are the dreams that David is going for. Which tournament is this? This is a Munich Open. Merle says, doesn't A6 hang? Maybe, but in these kinds of positions, black has got to be well, I'm rolling. I control the 4 square. My bishops are good. I can always be happy with my posizione now, even if I did lose a pawn. Okay, so C6 that's a frisky move. It's true he has to do something. Okay, he's got to do something. So I imagine here, here, here. That looks very unpleasant for me. That looks very unpleasant. Is this the highest rated player David has played OTB? I don't think so, but it's one of the higher ones. He got to play a tournament a couple months back. He got to play all kinds of high-rated players. He got to play Sasi Kirin. I forgot who else, but some other high-rated players. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. kills bills. All right, rook cd1. So I called the idea. We're just gonna hold d5 and say we're doing fine. The other one was more intuitive to me. 91 was played. This seems fine. We're gonna put the queen on e1. Yeah, we're anticipating queen e1. It looks positionally very poor. Sometimes black can bust it open, though. That's got to be our dream at this point. Bust it open somehow. Our poor, poor bishop on g7. One funny thing is back in the day with Naka, is like we all beat Naka at some point. I beat him. Vinay Bhatt, who was in the GM house, beat him. What is dude thinking about here though? We gotta play queen e1. Hey, what's the deal? What's the deal? I felt it was okay. All right, so both, let's just say both of these moves seem possible. Both this one and this one. ED1 felt more intuitive to me. But then the bishop goes to c1, right? So now we're going to get 91, queen e1. I guess dude was just wondering, like, I don't know, maybe he went to go take a pee. I don't know. In any case, this looks, David needs an idea here, my friends, because it doesn't look good. It do not look good. I don't understand that line, Abdul. I don't get it. It always helps if you can give me a move, because I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, but you guys can't see the moves. That's unfair. You're talking about queen d1. I don't understand how queen d1 ever happened. Oh, I see. You're saying you made a typo. You're talking about cd5, rook d5, queen c7, and isn't black up a tempo? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. This looks terrible. We got c5. We got other moves here. c5 is the most obvious one. It is very unpleasant. Yeah, so this is a textbook bad position for black. And, you know, a lot of times black survives with tactics. That's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah. And I don't know if you're technically losing. It's just a very unpleasant position to play. Super unpleasant. Someday the knight's going to go to e4. Our king is better. Your bishop on g7. Horrendous. And this is the kind of position that he would want, like, from the beginning. White would want this kind of thing against a lower rated player. Like the computer might even say it's only a small advantage, but it's like, practically speaking, it is super unpleasant. Yeah. Rook c8. Maybe rook c8. Let's put rook c8 on the board for half a second. So the point would be that if knight e4, we claim that maybe we can live through this one. And it definitely doesn't look great, but we have we're not lost here. It's just a bad bishop situation, but we have the jump with the rook and it's our move. So who knows, maybe we can create something. Oh, move was played. Bishop c2 was played. Frisky? I don't know. No. I'm not sure I like it. Mr. Pruess is getting a little... That's a frisky move. That's a frisky move. That's like maybe even asking for it, if you know what I mean. Might be asking for it. Well, let's go ahead and say that Pruess's intention has to be something like rook d2 and then the ultra fancy bishop b3, right? That's touching my coconut, though, right there. That's really touching my coconut. I can't. The dude can't abide. I was going to go ahead and say, the dude can't abide the knight on e4. We could analyze that further, but just I'm going to say the dude can't abide. Is his intention queen g6? We're going to see. Rook d2 is played, bishop b3. No. He's allowing... So let me just say, my friends, in terms of a story, this game was all about the e4 square from move 13. This has been about the e4 square. And now black has lost said battle. Now, maybe, okay, maybe here's a thought. Maybe Pruess really believes that knight e4 cd, and maybe he's going to say he's a genius. Okay, maybe. I have my doubts, you know. It's true that on knight d6, queen e6, something like that, maybe we got something. dc6 is played. This looks abysmal. This looks just simply lost. Yeah, I think we're gone. I think it is gone. Bishop b3 was like a very frisky attempt. But you lose the battle of e4 square. It is over. It is big loss. Yeah, knight's power. Yeah, he had these very... Pruess is like he's a maximalist and a romantic dude. So when he sees this bishop stuff, he's not thinking practically either. He's just like, I'm going to win the... He'll believe in himself too. He'll be like, I'm winning the battle of the center. And I'm like, well, I don't know, my friend. I don't know. Looks like the critters has been crisped. Oh, he did. By the way, the opening was fine. I thought he won the battle of the opening. So that was cool. That was unexpected for me. And Fedoseev, like, yeah, he tried to trick him, but he got tricked himself. All right. Now I'm gonna do something really. I'm gonna do something real boomer. Find my phone because I couldn't find it. That's where I went. I was like, I can't find it. So now it's probably gonna be like right in front of me or in my pocket. But I'm gonna have this computer tell me where my phone is. Play sound, please. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? That takes a second. Munich Chess Festival 2024. Is D5 okay here? No. But maybe that's what we're going to see. You know, because you're just losing, you're still losing the battle. Bishop D5, you know. Maybe that's what you got to try, but this is definitely a lost situation. You got too many weaknesses, and you're down a pawn. Bishop C5 could be the default move here for black. So DC6. And Liart also has a nice variation with D5 and rook takes D5. Also a bummer. So today is a sad day, so any raid is fine. We're not giving up yet, buddy. We're not giving up yet, boss. We might give up soon, but we're not getting up yet. Yeah. That evil time pressure is creeping in too. Nordovich is talking about D5. I guess that would be my first instinct too. After CD, it looks completely lost, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, Paul 1E4, yeah. He is the most pessimistic player. Okay, maybe you could consider pawn takes pawn. And here our thought would be that if knight e4, then d5. And if rook d6 will claim that you're a little bit, oh my gosh, that was played. Will claim that you're a little bit discoordinated there. Okay. So probably I like it as a best practical chance here. We're anticipating rook d6, and it does look completely over, but you know, we got the bishops and stuff. The real problem is this knight. Oh, man. Coming here, this thing terrible. I've said it already. I know. Yeah. All right, a move was made. Rook d6. That's what we anticipated. It is a most unpleasant. Yeah, either queen c4 or bishop c4. In either case, knight e4 is going to be just pure unpleasantness. I'll say queen c4 looks what? A little bit more natural? There's my phone. All right, we got to move with bishop c4. And one piece of good news with bishop c4 is that if knight e4, we could legitimately dream of hanging on after bishop d5. Would we have solved all our problems? No. In fact, like knight e4, bishop d5, knight c5 looks especially brutal, as rook d7 will soon appear on the board. Another obvious question, of course, is what about the famous rook takes c6? You know, it looks lost. And again, there's two problems here. We're going to be down a pawn, the bishop on g. Three problems. Bishop on g7 is bad, and the king is worse. The black king is worse. But, you know, King's Indian players, they're tricky little dudes, you know? They're tricky dudes. They'll hang around, you know. They can get you. They can get you. They can get you. Bummer we don't have a video feed on this one. Maybe there is one, but I don't know how to find it. Oh. Excuse me. Dude's taking his time here. Let's talk about the bummer for Vlad here. Who wins this game? He gets 0 points. He gets nothing. You know, maybe 0.2 or something like that. You know, no points for you, buddy. No points for you. And it's true. And rook c6, I feel pretty confident that rook c6 is fine for white. But that's the kind of move you need to, you know, make sure some calamity doesn't happen to you. In a percentage, how likely is it that this position is holdable? Was asked on the YouTube channel. I mean, if you're asking like top computer against top computer, then it's 0% or close to 0, I think. If we're talking about just people, well, anything can still happen. That's why we haven't given up yet. You know, it's not resignable yet. And rook takes e6. White has to be careful about rook d8. There's just a little couple questions that'll be asked. You know. Yeah. King is going to go to h2 someday. Totally secure on h2. Totally secure. That's, even if we weren't winning the pawn, you know. Yeah, everything's bad here. Ay, ay, ay. Well, he's tanking pretty good anyway. He's definitely tanking. Trace asks, what makes h2 a better spot than h1 for the king? Well, we have better dark square control than light squares, right? So David's one thing is here, he's got some light squares. Plus, on h2, we won't get whacked here. If we were going to worry on h2, by the way, it would be some kind of pawn sack and then the bishop coming here. So that is at least a dream. But the bad news is pretty soon this knight's going to land here. And then that dream is going to be goodbye. All right, move was played. Rook takes c6. Rook d8. knight e4 pretty quickly. Did I call knight e4? Yeah, I called it. I said that move's going to come. And white just had to make sure that nothing dramatic is happening here, you know. And the bad news, I don't know. There's no good news here. I mean, this rook, like, it's such a pain in the you-know-what. It's looking at this bad boy. It's looking here. It's looking here. It's looking down here. This bishop, chump fell. Yep. Well, I am almost ready to call it, you know. I'm almost ready to call it. And Abdul doesn't even care who I raid today, which is nice, because normally he really has some opinions about who I raid. I generally raid some hot girl, and then Abdul's like, buddy, that's not serious chess. And I'm like, I don't know, I just raided somebody, you know, give me a break. You know. Queen b1. Gritty Pants wants me to raid. Raid some hot girl. I raid Chess Sharks or Dina. Dina raided us earlier. It looks like she's back, so I might have to please raid some hot girl. Yep, hot girl sounds good. Thank you, Drittman. And we're voting for Dina. Okay. Dina's a friend of the dojo. Okay, we have oh, it's David's move. I don't know. Tell you what, I'm gonna set up the raid, but I'm not gonna press it yet. We'll let David go here. Raid Dina, Bell and Kaya.